Hello and welcome back to the AI Ethics Now podcast. My name is Tom Ritchie, and I'm pleased today to be joined by three student researchers from the University of Warwick, Yen Li, Meifang Zhuo, and Ganesha Agarwal. They've been conducting a WIHIR-funded study exploring how university students actually use AI in their academic work. Not what institutions think they should do, but what they're really doing. Through focus groups with students at Warwick, their findings are going to challenge our assumptions about everything from academic integrity to educational fairness. Yan, Meifang, Ganesha, welcome to AI Ethics Now. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you came to work on this project together, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having us, Tom. My name's Yan. I'm the lead on this project. I joined by my colleagues Meifang and Ganesha. We came together to work on this WeHear funded project with a shared interest in understanding the real world experiences of students using the generative AI in their academic lives. Nowadays, with the rapid integration of tools like ChatGPT in everyday study habits, we felt that it was crucial to move beyond speculation and gather direct insight from the student community. So our aim was to create a safe space for students to share their honest perspectives and the rich discussions that emerged from our focus groups and listen to what their experience and what they thought about the AI use in their study.
Brilliant, thank you. And I wonder, Ganesha or Meifang, what made you want to study specifically student perceptions of using AI rather than institutional policies?
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Yan, for introducing our project. I'm Mei Fan Zhuo from Applied Linguistics. I'm a final year PhD student, and I'm really interested in AI projects and how students use AI. So primarily because we believe that AI use is complex and contextual, and we place students as primary users of AI study tools. So understanding students' perceptions is essential to ensure that AI tools are used ethically and effectively, and they meet students' learning needs. And we believe that because if we're only focusing on institutional policies, it's kind of like a top-down thing, and we wanted to do something like a bottom-up. Another reason for our research is we believe that how AI affects study skills is not just technical, it's cognitive and emotional and ethical. So policies rarely capture these aspects. So we believe that perception-based studies can help to fill this gap. So that's the reason why we wanted to study student perceptions rather than institutional policies.
Thank you. And I wonder, Ganesha, what were you expecting to find versus what actually emerged from this project?
Sure, Tom. So I think we were all expecting to find that there's this dissonance between what an institution thinks about how students use AI and how students actually use AI. And through our three focus groups, I think our initial hypothesis has sort of been tried and tested and it's proven to be true because students have a very different perspective when it comes to actually using AI, and their purposes and motivation differs from what universities might think just because of how integrated AI is becoming in our daily lives.
With all of that in mind, having looked at some of the comments from your study, students were telling you that they use AI as an efficiency enhancer. So getting summaries before reading or getting help with an essay structure before they started. But some student feedback said that it made them feel more lazy. And this echoes some recent MIT research that shows that people using ChatGPT had significantly reduced brain activity and that this effect was seen to persist even after they stopped using AI. So I wonder, do you think this is an example of some real evidence of what researchers are calling cognitive laziness in an educational setting?
This question gets to the very heart of what we discovered in our research, actually. And the students we spoke with painted a complex picture that absolutely resonates with the concept of cognitive laziness, but perhaps not in a straightforward way we might expect. So, on one hand, the term efficiency enhancer come up actually repeatedly in our focus groups. Students from various disciplines, like from English literature to cybersecurity, describe using AI to streamline their work. And for instance, an English undergrad mentioned using it to get a summary of long old text before reading to help her focus on deeper analysis. And similarly, a postgraduate management student uses AI to quickly generate notes from case studies and create presentations, which is a huge time saver. This is what we might call strategic efficiency, like offloading lower order tasks to free up time for higher order thinking. And another postgraduate student put it a similar way, saying that he actually spent less time on the mechanics of writing and now more time on analysis with the AI help. And this idea of strategic efficiency is actually nowhere more evident than with second language learners. AI is actually a vital tool for equity and accessibility. They explain that it helps them polish their grammar and rephrase sentences to sound more natural and academic. This isn't about the AI doing the thinking for them, but rather AI is to remove a linguistic barrier, allowing them to express their own complex ideas with the same clarity as a native speaker. So, in this context, using AI to refine language isn't really laziness. It's actually a powerful and necessary tool that allows them to focus on their cognitive energy on the core analytic work. So, are we seeing real evidence of cognitive laziness? I would say yes, but with a crucial nuance. It's not necessarily about students wanting to do less work. Instead, it's about the path of least resistance becoming incredibly easy to take. The AI is so good at providing a pretty good response, as one student put it, and the incentive to engage in the sometimes messy, difficult, and time consuming process of learning from scratch is diminishing. And one of the comments came from a postgraduate student who said that before AI, he would discuss topics with his classmates, but now he just talks to the AI, which he felt was not a good thing as he talks less with other humans. This points to a broader concern that cognitive laziness might also manifest as a form of social and intellectual outsourcing, which could have significant implications for the collaborative and social aspects of learning. So, our research suggests that while students are leveraging AI for genuine efficiency gains, there's a very real and acknowledged risk of cognitive laziness. The key takeaway is that this isn't a simple story of students being lazy. It's a story about the powerful and seductive nature of these tools and the urgent need for educators and students alike to develop a critical pedagogy around their use, and one that harnesses their power without sacrificing the essential cognitive and social processes of learning.
I think your point as well about how it leads to potential social kind of exclusion and isolation is also a really interesting one, because there's a lot of research about how AI is being used to do Socratic questioning, so people can develop their own skill set with an AI because it can give you essentially unlimited responses. It will speak to you over and over again, explain things in a slightly different way. AI GPTs generally that people will be using for these, they're non-deterministic, so they'll give you a slightly different answer every time. Whereas I think if one of my students came to me and asked me in 50 different ways to explain the assignment to them, that would get very difficult as a teacher to be able to actually give them a response that might meet what they wanted. Whereas I think an AI can give you that. So I can see the kind of the pros and cons of it both ways. I wonder though, with all of that in mind, how do you think we can distinguish between what you were describing as strategic efficiency and educational shortcuts?
It really depends on what type of tasks that students use AI for. Many students said that they just use AI for very basic stuffs like summarizing the readings for them or checking the grammar or providing them some very basic outlines of the assignments they are going to do. And they are going to do the analysis themselves. They are going to do the argumentation themselves, and they're going to put up the whole thing themselves. I think this is how strategic this description comes up, like people using AI for liberating them from the very foundational stuffs, and then they can save time to do more analytic and higher order thinking. I think this is where the strategic efficiency comes from.
And I think as well, there's a really kind of interesting point there about the role of AI in ideation. And I always describe it as something that helps get you off the blank page. So we're developing custom GPTs in the chemistry department for students who are working on Viva preparation and learning how to write in a kind of more professional way for their lab reports. And none of these tools are designed to do the work for you. They're designed to help you get past that first block where you go, I can't do this. And that said, I have a real privilege to be able to purchase the better version of AI, or the pro version. We were talking about equity and accessibility earlier on, and how AI is a tool that allows for greater equity and accessibility, particularly around language. But looking at your research, it also revealed something quite striking to me, that AI accessibility often seems to come down to whether students have spare cash for the better version, in the way that I do as someone who is in a paid role. And I wonder, do you think that this proliferation of different AIs that have better versions that we can purchase, do you think that will lead to the creation of perhaps new educational inequalities in higher education?
I think the simple answer is yes, but as with all things related to AI, there's a lot of nuance. Artificial intelligence is a double edged sword. On one hand, as we've discussed, it's sort of heralded as this equalizer because it's more accessible than previous technologies to the public. AI is developing at a rapid pace. And while we might not have access to the cutting edge version of these tools, we still have access to a lot of powerful features at a very rapid pace. And as we've also discussed, it's an equalizer in terms of skill leveling, especially as the initial literature and research suggests, because it offers a lot of tools that personalize learning and improve accessibility. For example, international students or someone whose first language isn't English can use it to sort of focus on their grammar and structure their answers, so then they are free to just think about the content rather than be restricted or limited by their language ability. But on the flip side, it is creating educational equality. Earlier, it was about, do you have access to a pen, paper, or teacher? And then the pandemic sort of shifted to digital devices. Do you have access to a stable internet connection, a laptop, etc.? And that is now expanding to, do you have access to the AI tool? Do you have access to the paid version of ChatGPT? Because there is a lot of difference currently in the features that you get, and it makes a big difference whether you're restricted by the fact that you can only ask ChatGPT 5 questions, or you have unlimited search potential there. And obviously, in our focus groups, we've come across this difference in students in terms of their willingness to pay, their attitudes towards AI use, and discrepancy in their use. But at the same time, we think it's really important for there to be a level playing field, that everyone gets access to the paid, to the premium versions of ChatGPT. Because at the end of the day, sometimes when you turn in an assignment using AI, the difference whether an assignment is a first class or an upper second is about whether you had that extra resource or that extra knowledge that that resource provided, which is really important. And then there's this more subtle inequality in terms of technical literacy, in terms of how students are able to use AI itself beyond the cost of access, which is in terms of technical literacy, because prompting still makes a big difference in the kind of answers that you get. And it is easy to imagine that a student who studies computer science perhaps has better knowledge in prompting than a student who studies maybe a humanities subject, and that also makes a big difference. So there are a lot of ways in which AI, in one way, is bridging the skill gap, but in the other way, is creating new forms of educational inequality that we need to be really careful about.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think your point about the level playing field is a really important one that we need to consider further, particularly around things, as you say, like prompting and access to be able to use these tools. But I think if we take a step back from that and look at how universities themselves are reacting to AI and the policies that they're creating, students are saying that there is unclear or inconsistent guidance across departments, not just at Warwick, but at many different universities. But I know that one of your students said that they're unsure the extent to which ChatGPT can be used in assignments. And I wonder, from an ethics perspective, what do you think is going wrong here? How do you think universities are perhaps struggling to keep up with where AI is going and actually how students are using it?
Absolutely. I think Warwick has a very detailed policy on AI use and academic integrity. Its policy has evolved with the times, from initially all the Russell Group universities banning AI and then allowing it, to the current stage where they're actually trying to promote AI literacy. But a policy is only as good as what trickles down to all of its stakeholders and how students actually engage with the policy and how it impacts their end use of AI. And the overwhelming majority of our focus group participants weren't even aware that Warwick had a formal AI policy, which is quite astonishing. And they widely agreed that the current guidance on ethical use of AI lacked clarity, detail, and accessibility. And as you mentioned, there is a lot of departmental disparity. To a certain extent, that disparity is justified because the way you study and assess something like English literature differs from the way you study and assess physics. So there's this understanding that all departments can't have the same AI policy, or even down to the module level, you can't have the same AI policy. But what is really frustrating, I think, for students is the lack of clarity and guidance on AI disclosure, which leads to this rampant problem of widespread underreporting. And it's not because students don't want to be ethical, but there are two defining underlying factors at play. One, students don't really understand the policy, and it's quite difficult to not use AI because it is quite pervasive. Like, even if you don't use ChatGPT, you do a Google search, you still get AI summaries. Is that something that's acceptable? Is that something that you need to disclose? Because AI is a general purpose technology which is integrating with other technologies. So, what is the extent to which you have to disclose use of AI when it's so pervasive? And secondly, there's this underlying skepticism about one student saying that they didn't want to disclose their use of AI, not because they don't want to be ethical, but because they were afraid of about how it will hurt their marks, because they weren't sure about the subconscious and conscious biases against the use of AI. Therefore, it's really important, I think, for Warwick to have a uniform policy, not about the extent to which different departments allow use of AI, but to the extent that departments have very detailed guidance on how to use AI and what is required in terms of disclosing AI use by students.
Is this perhaps the right way to approach it, or are we needing to think differently about how AI can be used in the student experience? So rather than departments having quite specific policies, which the moment you write something down in a policy, there's instantly gaps and there's grey areas, would it perhaps be more useful, you think, for departments, specific module leaders to actually start to look at the assessments that they're giving, how they can either be AI proofed or actually how AI can be intentionally and effectively integrated into those? Do you see the kind of difference between that, rather than the, as you say, the top down, this is the policy, everyone must follow it, when, as you've quite rightly pointed out, there's so many nuances between different departments and even, again, within modules? Or would it be more useful perhaps to try to go through this more assessment focused, perhaps even skills focused approach to AI within how students are learning and developing on modules?
Definitely. I think it is more useful for students to get detailed guidance on each assignment. And there's also, as you mentioned, this role of assignments and assessments themselves evolving in this new age of AI, which is something that module leaders and professors need to take into account. But overall, I think the only fear there is when it is so minute and nuanced, is that the way one professor provides guidance is going to differ significantly for another professor. Someone might provide like a 5-page detailed document, whereas the other professor might just say you can use AI or AI use is banned. So in terms of uniformity, it's more like overarching guidelines to the amount of detail that you need to provide, or like a sort of checklist, like this is AI use currently, this is the amount you can use. You can use it as a search engine, you can use it to summarize, etc., etc. So providing those broad-based guidelines that can then be adapted to the module level would be the right way to go, in my opinion.
I think it's a really good idea, but I think one of the challenges would be, all staff would then have to be experts almost on AI. I think there are many colleagues I know who are as uncomfortable with using AI or AI being used as students are. But I can definitely see the point about almost making sure, either on a module level or a course level, that there's at least some clarity, kind of as Ganesha mentioned, around how we can use this. We're touching on some themes here around kind of AI literacy, particularly for students and for staff, as well as instances of kind of AI governance in all universities. And I wonder, for all three of you, do you have a sense of what good AI literacy could look like for students, and a sense of what good AI governance in universities could be?
I believe at a broad level, from a student perspective, for AI literacy to be something that is a skill that students develop throughout their time at university, it's being provided, as we've discussed, detailed guidance on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, but also then going a step beyond and providing them resources and tools on how to actually leverage the powers of AI. Because everyone can sort of go to ChatGPT and type in a question, but how do you type in a question that gets you the best possible answer? Are there resources for that? And I think that's something that's really important. And within the broader university governance structure for AI, I think it's quite hard to give a definite answer because AI evolves so rapidly and policy written today can be outdated by tomorrow. But what is really important when it comes to AI governance is for institutions like Warwick to really try and keep up and to offer that flexibility where they're very open minded. As technology evolves, they continue to update their policies and then clearly communicate that to all stakeholders, including students.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and particularly around policies written today are outdated tomorrow. That's something we've spoken about in different episodes of this podcast previously as well. I want to move on though. I think we're making an assumption here that all students want to use AI. But as seen in your study, a number expressed strong privacy concerns, and one of your participants actually said they'd refuse to share any personal information just because they're not entirely sure where that data will go, how it will be scraped and used. And so, with that in mind, I wonder, how do you think we can best balance student agency in this context with kind of full participation in AI enhanced learning?
Thank you, Tom. Indeed, the student like mentioned about privacy concerns, but on the other hand, the student who actually articulate this also express that they really need to use AI, although they do not want to use it because they're afraid that they may be left behind or lose that kind of advantage. So we believe that to balance like student agency with full participation in AI enhanced learning, one key is we probably need to move the discourse, like shift the discourse away from like AI is coming and use it or left behind to like AI is coming, but we can choose to use it like safely or meaningfully and for my own use, like purpose. So it's kind of AI is part of the toolkit that exists now. In the focus group, we also ask one very interesting question that participants like is if you wanted to go back to the time that AI does not exist at all, a small number of the participants did say that they wanted to go back there. So it's, you don't need to be concerned about the ethical red line. Don't need to be concerned about if you lose kind of advantage because you are not so AI like literate. One key probably to reach this balance is to enhance students' AI literacy, as we always mentioned. But I think it's more about the detailed questions, like students can have clear answers about the questions they are really concerned about. For example, like privacy issues, like who owns the data and will the data be stored? And if it's stored, where it is stored and for how long? And will anyone else access their data? Will the, like for example, if the university approve students' use of AI, will lecturers or external companies have access to the data? So these are all the key questions that students want a clear answer for before they can like be assured of their AI use. And another thing is also about like the impact, the negative impact on environment and things like that. Students also wanted to know how it affects environment, how they can use AI like in a more conscious way, well, by environmental friendly, things like that. So I think AI literacy and digital ethics, probably we can build these content into curriculum and then to try to help students raise their awareness of how AI it is, how it operates, and all the ethical issues surrounding like AI use.
How do you think we can maintain educational values while embracing AI's potential? Or do we need to rethink educational values that we hold?
I believe the established educational values of university preparing students for the real world and for helping them develop their critical and cognitive abilities and creativity still hold in this age with AI. But the way that process looks is quite different because teaching and learning has to adapt to this new technology that is changing the way we think and use our digital devices. And there has to be a sort of reckoning in the way that we think about AI use and incorporate it into our daily habits. But at the same time, I don't think that strays far from the core values of our educational system.
I think one of the university educational goal for it's like to help students to develop a personal relationship with knowledge. And in AI, in the era of generative AI, I think we need to take that into consideration, and then how we can assist the student to develop their personal relationship with knowledge while the technology is available. And one of our strategic goal, I believe, is also like to ensure student success after they leave university. Students with AI literacy or know like how to use AI to enhance their work efficiency and things like that, I think could help them to gain kind of advantage when they do the job seeking. I think the companies will probably look for people with those skills as well. We also know that we have like 21st century skills set, and probably AI literacy already included in that. And probably, as Ganesh and our conversation, we discussed that before, like the policy is changing every day, and the skill set is also changing every day. Like to keep up with the needs of tomorrow, we need to integrate that into our consideration of what kind of students that universities is help to educate.
And I think that's spot on, Mayfeng, because I was reading something yesterday that 66% of businesses, organizations that are hiring graduates are now specifically asking for AI literacy skills. The interesting thing comes when you start to look deeper at what do they mean, because they all mean something perhaps slightly different, again, because of the area of work that they're in. But I can completely see your point about this need to reconsider the relationship we have with knowledge. Through this podcast, through the module that I teach on with students, we work to explore how AI can serve humanity rather than just replacing human capabilities. And that's very much come through the discussion we've had today. But I wonder, based on your research, how do you think we can continue to build a more positive future with AI, please?
I think this is a very significant question. As you can hear or see from our research, is that students actually are already navigating the tension between using AI as a tool for connection versus one for isolation. And I think our research findings show a very clear duality. Students are actually aware of the risks of using AI. They noted that how easily AI can replace conversations with their peers and how it can be used to bypass genuine teamwork. But we also see a more hopeful side with students using the efficiency of AI to free up more time for higher order thinking and even using it as a tool to better collaborate with their peers. And I think this is going back to the question about the difference between cognitive laziness and strategic efficiency. This is really related to how we build up students' awareness and intentionality about using AI as a tool, not replacing our intelligence, and building students like awareness of how we should see human intelligence and sociality. Like we humans are very good at solving problems. We can do high order thinking. We can judge from right to wrong. We can even like strategically using AI as a tool. This is part of our intelligence as well. And we also need social relationships to thrive. Students need to know that you can never use AI to replace your own intelligence because basically you are more intelligent than AI. You should be able to judge the right or wrong in the outputs that AI give you.
Thank you, Yan Yan. I believe I will try to build on what Yan Yan just shared with us. I think like human-centered AI design probably is the way, because our research reveals to us like how real people feel and think about AI, not just like how AI performs and then how this interaction makes sense. So we need to design AI that is accessible, transparent to all like human beings, not only like students. And we should build AI that tools that enhance, not replace human learning or creativity. And I think we should also honor like transparency and trust of AI use, and take digital literacy as core skills that we need to build in like educational curriculum, not only in higher education, but probably like a younger, like earlier stages of education as well, like prepare students for that.
I absolutely agree with Yan Yan and Meifang. And just to preface my own answer, I am a cautious optimist about the use of AI, and I really believe in its potential to be a force for good. And I definitely agree with Meifang about how we need to develop human centered AI. In education specifically, I think it is really important that Warwick have a clear, updated policy about AI use, but also clearly communicates that with students. As we've discussed, there are departmental differences, but there's this need to establish norms of providing detailed guidance in the extent to which AI can be used, and also at the same time reevaluate how we are assessing students in this age of AI as we are redetermining the relationship with knowledge. AI is often seen as this buzzword where people love it, people hate it, but I think students really have a nuanced perception and understanding of AI use that perhaps they aren't given enough credit for. And something that's come up in our research is that most students think of AI as a tool like MS Word. Someone actually compared being provided ChatGPT subscription to being provided a New York Times subscription, and it's up to the students whether they use it or not. But from an institutional viewpoint, Warwick needs to level the playing field by providing access to AI technology. AI is here, and AI is here to stay because it's extensively used in the working world. So it's really important to equip students with the skills and tools required to harness AI so that they can build up their knowledge and experience while they're in university to thrive in the real working world and champion positive change.
Thank you all for really thoughtful and considered responses to that question of a more positive future with AI. And I think to close, it's worth just saying that your research has helped give us some really crucial insights into the transformation that's already happening, very much so in many, many universities, particularly at Warwick, particularly in the department that I work in, as well as others. And I think it's clear that the students you spoke with are navigating this complex ethical territory, often without clear guidance. And I think their experiences and how you've managed to pull these out through the focus groups have revealed some perhaps fundamental questions that need to be considered in university conversations around fairness and integrity and actually the future of education and AI itself. So thank you to the three of you for doing this work, and also to We're Here for funding it and providing the space for this and other leading work on AI at the University of Warwick. I'll make sure that there are some more details on your research in the show description. But Yan Yan, Meifeng, and Ganesha, have a lovely day. Lovely to speak to you and catch up very soon. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you.